There was a time when the world didn't fit in your pocket. No blue dot followed you. No voice told you when to turn. Imagine standing in a candle-lit room. The walls are quiet. The air smells faintly of ink and old paper. Spread out on a wooden table is a map, creased, yellowed, its edges softened by years of hands that trusted it. The oceans are vast and empty. The continents feel incomplete. Some coastlines stop abruptly, as if the mapmaker simply ran out of courage. You trace a finger along a winding line, a river that may or may not exist. Somewhere beyond it, the parchment simply says, Terra Incognita, unknown land. This map isn't just showing the world. It's revealing what people believed the world was. And for centuries, these maps didn't just guide travelers. They shaped empires, fueled ambition, and decided who believed they belonged somewhere and who didn't. Before satellites, before GPS, before even reliable clocks, there were maps. Not the clean clinical diagrams we know today, but handmade interpretations of reality. Each one was a negotiation between knowledge, rumor, religion, and imagination. A map was as much a story as it was a tool. Antique maps mattered because people trusted them. Kings planned wars with them. Sailors risked their lives on them. Merchants invested fortunes because a piece of paper suggested there might be a safer route or a richer one. Tonight, we're stepping back into a world where maps were fragile, personal, and deeply human. Where blank spaces were not errors, they were invitations. This is the story of antique maps, how they were born, how they shaped the world, and what quietly disappeared when certainty replaced wonder. Long before the first printed map, humans were already mapping their surroundings, not on paper, but in memory. Early societies navigated by landmarks, stars, stories passed from one generation to the next. Knowledge was local. The world ended where experience ended. The earliest physical maps we know weren't meant for travelers at all. They were symbolic, carved into stone or drawn on clay tablets. The Babylonian world map, created over 2,500 years ago, shows a flat circular earth surrounded by water with Babylon at the center. Not because it was the center, but because it felt like it. Maps reflected belief before accuracy. In ancient Greece, thinkers like Anaximander and Ptolemy began something revolutionary. They tried to map the world mathematically. Latitude and longitude were born not from exploration, but from philosophy. The idea that the Earth could be measured, that space could be ordered, changed everything. Still, for centuries, maps remained rare, precious objects. They were copied by hand. Every mistake was repeated. Every myth survived longer than it deserved. During the Middle Ages, European maps became deeply spiritual. The famous Mappa Mundi placed Jerusalem at the center of the world, not for navigation, but for meaning. East was often placed at the top, the direction of paradise. Monsters lurked at the edges, not because people believed they would meet them, but because the unknown needed a face. Then came the age of exploration, and with it, a hunger for better maps. As ships pushed farther into the Atlantic, accuracy became a matter of survival. Coastlines had to be right. Distances had to be believable. Portolan charts emerged, detailed nautical maps crisscrossed with wind lines, drawn by sailors for sailors. These were working tools, smudged with salt and sweat. The printing press changed everything. Suddenly, maps could be reproduced. Ideas could spread faster than corrections. A single cartographer's interpretation could define how an entire continent was imagined. Some mistakes became famous. California appeared as an island for nearly a century. Entire mountain ranges were invented. Rivers were extended to places no one had seen, because someone once said they were there. But maps weren't just recording discovery. They were instruments of power. To put a name on a map was to claim it. To draw borders was to create reality on paper before it existed on land. Empires expanded not just with armies, but with ink. By the 17th and 18th centuries, map-making reached a golden age. Dutch cartographers produced richly decorated atlases, full of color, sea creatures, ships, and allegorical figures. These maps were status symbols. They hung in homes not to guide journeys, but to signal education, wealth, and worldview. Owning a map meant you understood the world, or at least wanted others to think you did. As science improved, maps grew more accurate, but also more restrained. Decoration faded, blank spaces shrank. The unknown slowly disappeared. By the 19th century, governments took control of mapping. Surveyors measured land with instruments, not imagination. Railways demanded precision. Borders hardened. Maps became authoritative. The world at last felt complete. Even in the 20th century, maps still felt personal. They were folded into glove compartments, stuffed into backpacks, spread across kitchen tables before road trips. They carried creases that matched our habits, the routes we took most often. There was a particular feeling to opening a map, that brief moment of disorientation before everything snapped into place. The quiet satisfaction of finding where you were, the trust you placed in thin paper and printed lines. Classrooms had pull-down world maps that smelled faintly of dust and chalk. Some were already outdated. Countries had changed names. Borders had shifted. But the map stayed. And maybe that was the magic. Maps didn't just show where things were. They froze a moment in time, a political mood, a shared understanding of the world. You didn't argue with a map. You adapted to it. The decline of antique maps wasn't sudden. At first, they were simply updated more often, then digitized, then animated, then personalized. GPS didn't just replace maps. It removed the need to understand them. You no longer needed context, only instructions. Turn left, continue straight. You are here. Convenience won. Certainty won. But something subtle faded with it. The habit of seeing the world as a whole. The patience to get lost. The quiet responsibility of choosing a direction without being told. Maps stopped being companions and became background processes. Antique maps remind us that knowledge was once incomplete and that people moved forward anyway. They trusted imperfect information. They accepted uncertainty. They left space for imagination. Today, we know where everything is, but we rarely stop to look. Maybe that's why these old maps still pull us in. Not because they're accurate, but because they admit they're not. They leave room for wonder. And maybe that's something worth folding back into our lives.